Sehr
John and Ed, they're on patrol, chasing shadows, heart and soul. Cryptid hunter UFO, down this rabbit hole they go. In the woods and on the street, whispers follow their heartbeat. Alien eyes, giant's feet, old got shadows they all meet. Down the rabbit hole they dive, midnight secrets start to thrive. Mysteries keep them alive. In the dark, does truth survive? Haunted houses, midnight calls, endless echoes in the halls. Ghostly murmurs, secret falls, every clue, they chase them all. On the woods and on the street, whispers follow their heartbeat. Alien eyes, giant's feet, old got shadows they all meet. Down the rabbit hole they dive, midnight secrets start to thrive. Mysteries keep them alive. In the dark, does truth survive? Haunting walls, they've got the key. Hidden fears, they set them free. Cryptid hunter, you and me. Down this rabbit hole, let's see. Unseen worlds, they've got the key. Hidden fears, they set them free. Cryptid hunter, you and me. Down this rabbit hole, let's see.
they're coming.
Heinrich whispered to Klaus, his grandson.
They always come.
The bonfire cast long shadows across the valley as old Heinrich Schmidt stood at the edge of the Harz forest, his weathered face illuminated by the dancing flames. It was April the 30th, 1938, Walpurgis Night, and for 70 years he had kept watch on this night. But would this be his last vigil? The boy, barely 16, shivered despite the warmth of the fire. He'd heard his grandfather's tales his entire life, but had dismissed them as the ramblings of a superstitious old man. Yet tonight, something in the air felt different. Electric. Expectant. Heinrich had been born in a small village near the Brocken mountain in 1868. The same year, his own grandmother had disappeared during the Walpurgis celebrations. The official story was that she had fallen from the mountain path while gathering herbs, but the villagers whispered other theories. They said she had seen something she shouldn't have seen, that she had witnessed the witch's Sabbath.
My grandmother was no fool.
Heinrich told Klaus, his voice barely audible above the crackling flames.
She was the village healer, respected by all. She knew every path on this mountain blindfolded.
According to family legend, Heinrich's grandmother had left a journal hidden beneath the floorboards of her cottage. In it, she documented strange occurrences around the Brocken, unexplained lights, voices on the wind, and footprints that appeared and vanished overnight.
She votes that Walpurgis Night isn't what we've been told,
Heinrich continued, his eyes reflecting the firelight. The old man explained how the ancient Germanic and Celtic peoples had celebrated this night long before Christianity arrived. They called it a different name, Maeve, Beltane, but its purpose remained constant, to mark the boundary between winter and summer, between death and life, between this world and the next.
The bonfires weren't just for warmth or celebration.
Heinrich said, gesturing to the flames before them.
They were boundaries to keep the worlds apart.
According to Heinrich's grandmother, the night held a terrible secret. The witches weren't flying to sabbaths. They were fleeing from something that hunted them. The bonfires weren't meant to ward off witches, but to protect them from creatures that emerged when the veil between worlds thinned.
She called them the Watchers.
Heinrich whispered.
Neither dead nor alive, neither divine nor damned. They watched from the spaces between worlds. And on Walpurgis Night, they could step through.
As midnight approached, Heinrich instructed Klaus to scatter sacred herbs, mugwort, St. John's wort and rowan berries in a circle around their bonfire. The old man explained that his grandmother had been researching these things when she vanished.
She believed she'd found a way to see them without being seen.
Heinrich said,
A mixture of herbs burned in the Beltane fire, observed through glass, treated by a secret mixture, and activated by dew collected at the dawn.
From his pocket, Heinrich produced a small, ancient-looking piece of glass in a handcrafted wooden frame.
Her seeing glass, I've kept it safe all these years, but never had the courage to use it.
The midnight hour struck. Heinrich raised the glass to his eye and peered through it at the surrounding darkness beyond their fire circle. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then his face paled.
They're here,
He whispered, his hand trembling.
all around us. They've always been here.
Klaus, seeing nothing but darkness, thought his grandfather had finally succumbed to madness. But then the fire flickered, not from the wind, but as if something had passed between them and the flames. Heinrich lowered the glass, his expression serene, despite the fear in his eyes.
Now, I understand why she disappeared. She saw too much. Knowledge has a price.
He pressed the seeing glass into Klaus's hand.
Don't look tonight, but keep it safe. Someone must always watch on Walpurgis Night.
As dawn approached, Heinrich grew weaker, his breathing laboured. By the time the first light broke over the Brocken peak, the old man had gone peacefully and now lay as if asleep. The official cause was heart failure, not unexpected for a man of his age, but Klaus knew differently. His grandfather had seen something through that glass, something that had waited 70 years to claim him, just as it had claimed his grandmother. 50 years later, in 1988, as the Berlin Wall was weakening and Germany approached reunification, an elderly Klaus Schmidt was interviewed by folklorists documenting Walpurgis traditions in the Harz region. Do you still maintain the bonfire vigil your family was known for, they asked him. Every year, Klaus replied, and I have trained my granddaughter to continue after I'm gone. And the seeing glass? One researcher inquired. The local museums would pay handsomely for such an artifact. Klaus smiled cryptically. It was lost long ago. Perhaps it's better that way. What Klaus didn't tell them was that the glass wasn't lost. It sat in its cedar box beneath his bed, waiting for the right moment, the right person. What he also didn't mention was what happened when he finally looked through it 10 years after his grandfather's death, when his curiosity finally overcame his fear. He saw nothing supernatural, no creatures from between worlds, no watchers. Instead, he saw men, ordinary men in the uniforms of the secret police, moving silently through the forest, monitoring the bonfires, recording who attended the folk celebrations, and what was said between them. The true watchers weren't supernatural beings, but agents of control. First the church, then the state, each using fear of the other world to monitor this one. At least, that's what Klaus believed for decades. Until Walpurgis Night 1988, when he looked through the glass one last time and saw something else entirely. Something that made him understand why his grandfather had insisted that the fires must never die, that someone must always watch the boundary between worlds. Something that to this day makes him wonder whether the watchers of the state were themselves being watched by something far older and far more patient. As for the glass, it awaits its next guardian, ready to reveal either terrible truth or magnificent delusion, depending entirely on which side of the bonfire one chooses to stand. Hey, what do you think? You muted?
I thought it was good.
Cool.
No,
Excellent.
no, I muted myself. I'm getting better.
You're getting better, yeah. Well, at least you managed to... I managed to start the stream this time, but I forgot to start the video on the vertical. But I got there in the end. I think Nectaridus is on the vertical, so he's missing out on all the chat on the horizontal. But good to see you anyway, mate. Good to see you anyway. The breathing freaked her out, though, says Beats and Types. Yeah, well, that was a last-minute change because YouTube really needs to get its act together. Some clown in India put a copyright claim on the last part of the video, which would have brought the stream down. So luckily, after last week's... Was it last week? Was it just last week we had the debacle? Or was it the week before?
I think it was the week before.
After that debacle, I've decided to put the video up on YouTube for a couple of hours to see if I'm going to get anything. And this guy's claiming copyright-free footage as his because he's used it in his video. That's not how copyright-free footage works. And yeah, if I disputed it, I'd win the claim, but it wouldn't stop your live stream getting taken down. That's why I had to change it. No, it wasn't me breathing. No. That was stock audio.
Well, I thought it was good. I'm glad the stream didn't get nailed because
Yes.
that just creates stress and hassle.
Yes, it would, mate. And that is, you're right, Shalini. This is the one where I cursed at Ed because I was putting the voiceover on and Ed sent me a message. And I couldn't cut it out because it came in just as I was finishing my last word. And there was no way I could cut it out. I had to redo it after the fact. But anyway.
You should put your bloody phone on silent when you start recording things, innit?
Yeah, this phone's on silent, but for some reason, I don't understand this technology. I'm getting too old for this now. What was I going to say? Was the music too loud? And that people.
I turned my stream down a little bit, so I don't know if that's an indicator.
Well, the indicator would be if you couldn't hear me talking.
I could hear you talking just fine. I thought the whole thing was a bit loud, which is why I thought it was just me.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, lovely. Right, the audio was fine, says Ray. Thank you, Ray. Okay. Right, well, what is this Walpurgis Night? And this is us. We're halfway. This is us halfway to Halloween. So Europe has this kind of little. What you looking like that for?
Well, halfway to Halloween. Fuck off.
No, we are. You're not supposed to be swearing yet. We're only 12 minutes in. Anyway.
Well,
don't
say silly
don't
things
say
like halfway to Halloween.
But we are. The 30th of April's round about halfway to Halloween. I know it's the 1st of May.
It's not even summer yet.
See, I disagree because I've always treated the 1st of May as summer. Maybe because my birthday's in 4 days. But anyway, I've always treated May as summer. And usually, to be fair, May's probably one of the nicest months we get in Scotland. Although I can't complain about February. Well, March wasn't great. Well, March was actually okay. I can't complain about February, March, or April, which is unusual because normally it's just a crapshoot until you get to about May.
No, we didn't have any April showers.
I know. April was almost.
But we had enough
dry.
April showers last year to last about 5 Aprils. So
yeah. Right. Anyway, here we go. Let's crack on. So tonight we're going to dive into this. And it's got everything. It's got witches, bonfires, ancient gods, and enough folklore to keep even the most hardened skeptic up at night. We're talking about Walpurgis Night. So grab your scrying mirrors, get yourselves ready. Got your hot chocolate, Ray. I hope you're all right there, mate. And we'll get stuck in. Right, so if you've never heard about it, Walpurgis Night happens every year on April the 30th. It's like Halloween's mysterious European cousin. Less about trick-or-treat and more about bonfires, witches, and if you're in the right part of Germany, a party on top of a foggy mountain. So where did it all start? And like most good stories, it's a mashup. It contains a lot of pagan rituals and festivities, Christian saints, and a healthy dose of medieval paranoia. That's where we kind of sit with this. So we'll dig into it in a bit of depth. The foggy mountain is the Brocken mountain, which actually has another interesting side job, because I think during the Cold War, the Soviets had a listening station and stuff on top of it. So it was a kind of Soviet spy mountain as well, which is quite interesting. And well, I think it was quite interesting, but you might not. So anything you guys in the audience are particularly keen to hear about tonight? Do you know much about Walpurgis Night?
I'd never even heard of it.
Had you not?
No.
Right.
Nope. Never heard of it.
That's cool. I'm sure Night to read us had heard of it. Had you, mate? Yeah. Right. Okay. You want to take the next?
So, yeah, let's rewind the clock. Before anyone had heard of Saint Walpurga, Celtic and Germanic tribes were marking the end of winter and the start of summer with big fiery festivals, as you do. The Celts called it Beltane. Think bonfires, cattle, bit of fertility magic, and the odd leap over the flames if you fancied a good harvest. Or, let's be honest, a bit of luck in the romance department. Where it's spring, so fertility rituals kind of, it's all part and parcel. Germans had their own May Eve traditions, decorating homes with greenery, lighting fires to keep the nasties away, and generally making sure that the local spirits were happy. It was all about survival, community, and making it through another long, dark winter. fast forward to the 8th century, and in comes Saint Walpurga, an Anglo-Saxon missionary, daughter of nobility, and all-around miracle worker. And there you go. I didn't actually realize that Saint Walpurga was a female. There we go.
There you go.
After her death, her bones were moved to Eichstätt in Germany on May 1st, and suddenly the church had a new feast day right on top of the old pagan festival. Coincidence? I think not. Classic case of usurping pagan traditions. The church, being the clever clogs that it is, said, right, you can keep your bonfires, and now you're lighting them to scare off witches, not spirits, and if you need protection, pray to Saint Walpurga. She's got you covered for everything from rabies to witchcraft. Which, if you ask me, was a fairly good bit of rebranding, but the Catholic Church was good at that.
Well, the church in general is pretty good at it, isn't it? In fact, most of the religions are actually pretty good at rebranding things that have happened in the past to fall into their religious, what would you call it, narrative? Yeah. I mean, even going back to Christianity itself, when you look at the Egyptian stories of Horus and back to Sumeria, the stories are all the same, you know.
They're just repackaged.
They're just
It's
repackaged.
like Easter is named for Ishtar, who is a Babylonian fertility goddess, I think. Babylonian, possibly Sumerian.
Could be.
One of those ancient ones, anyway.
And if Jesus was a real man, then the kind of, I think, considered wisdom is that his birthday was round about June or July and nowhere near Christmas. But big festival in Christmas, big pagan festival, big Celtic festival in Christmas, big Druidic festival. So let's incorporate it all into that. So the people don't get confused. They just keep celebrating their festivals, and gradually we just turn them over into Christians. And that seems to be what religion's all about generally, doesn't it? It's just converting people to your way of thinking. And I don't think this is any different.
Certainly Christianity.
Well, they all are. They all kind of do it, you know, to a degree. Some are less evangelistic as others, but some are completely evangelistic and, you know, threaten extreme violence if you don't, you know?
Sure. I mean, I think you have groups within all of the major religions. You have some groups that are particularly evangelistic, and you have other groups that take a much more relaxed sort of approach to it. But the whole point of religion is we have the answer that covers life and death and all of the important things that we don't have laws for, and all of the metaphysical stuff that happens around us that we don't really understand. And so we lump all of that under religion. It's like what happens after we die. It's that perennial question that every single human has got and nobody knows the answer to. And then along comes some church or bishop or pope or whoever, or imam or rabbi or Buddhist monk or whatever that says, well,
gives you the answer,
we have the answer. We know what happens after you die. And you better behave or you're going to heaven, or if you misbehave, you're going to hell, which is the Christian version of it.
Yeah. So Nectaridus says he reckons he's been playing with the Beltane word, and he reckons it might mean Baal fire, maybe Baal. So he thinks it's obviously coming from that kind of background. And I tend to agree with him, because I think everything gets mashed up and mashed in together, doesn't it? And if we look back at the Middle East, not the Middle East, if we look back at the Middle Ages, Walpurgis Night wasn't just about celebrating spring then. It became the night witches were supposed to gather on the Brocken, which is the big mountain in what was East Germany prior to the reunification. So the highest peak in the Harz Mountains, for a knees up with the devil himself. Flying ointments, broomsticks, goats, if you could imagine it. It was all happening on the Brocken. Get this. The mountain's famous for another weird optical illusion called the Brocken Spectre. If you stand on the summit with the sun behind you, your shadow gets projected onto the mist in the valley, surrounded by a halo. Imagine seeing that after a few too many tankards of the local ale. No wonder they thought witches were about, huh? So then people started lighting even bigger fires, making noise, hanging herbs over their doors, anything to keep the witches at bay. It was a full-on supernatural arms race. That's quite cool.
Then along comes Goethe, this German Shakespeare, and he writes Faust. He puts the wildest, weirdest party scene on Walpurgis Night, right on the Brocken. And suddenly everyone's imagination is fired up, witches, devils, wild dancing, the whole lot. The legend is cemented, and Brocken becomes the place to be if you're a witch or just up for a good story. Now, speaking of stories, little tangent, do we all know where the story about witches' broomsticks comes from?
Oh, yeah, I remember that, but please refresh my memory.
Well, it's most likely that it was some sort of psychedelic ritual, because the ergot fungus, which is one of the, is hallucinogenic. It's a fungus you get on wheat, and it's a precursor to lysergic acid diethylamide, to not use the very famous acronym. But the problem with it is it's poisonous if you just eat it.
Yeah.
So the theory is that these,
and there's a lot of people died from it. A lot of people died.
Yeah, but they were essentially pagan. I don't know if witch is the right word, but pagan worshippers and women, and they would smear the ergot on broomsticks and then ride around on them and have hallucinations and contact. I don't know. It's some sort of weird Northern European shamanic ritual. And most likely, someone came across these naked women dancing around on broomsticks. And the legend of witches flying around on broomsticks was born. So it's not flying around on broomsticks. Well, I suppose they were flying. But yeah, getting high on the ergot fungus by your private parts.
So it was
interesting little tidbit.
There was a little bit of deviancy in there, was there? Or self-love? Well, what happens between you and your broom stays between you and your broom.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but that's what rituals are. I mean, particularly some of the old-fashioned stuff. It's not all incense and funny hats and churches. And if you look at some of the rituals that are performed in South America, and there's a lot of instances of shamans. I mean, they're effectively female shamans, and that's how they communicate with their spirits, I guess, and have a bit of fun at the same time.
Tantric.
Well, there's no point in a bit of spirituality if it's not also fun.
Well, yeah, to be fair, what's the point in being a member of a coven or some kind of satanic ritual if you can't have a good old-fashioned orgy? Huh? I mean, really?
Well, absolutely. I mean, goes without saying, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So these days, Walpurgis Night or Nacht is less about fear and more about fun. In Germany's Harz Mountains, it's a massive festival. People dress up as witches. There's music, bonfires, fireworks, and possibly more. In Sweden, it's called the Valborg. Students sing spring songs and light bonfires. Sweden's really freaking boring, isn't it? Finland's got Vapu with champagne and student caps. I don't know what the student caps are, but I like the champagne idea. The Czech Republic, we're still back. When we get to the Slavic side of things, we're still in the Dark Ages. They're still burning witch effigies, but it's all in good fun. Yeah, there's gone from a night of terror to a night of celebration. Proof that even the scariest legends can mellow with age. A bit like myself. Dare I say it?
Well, I've seen my fair share of odd goings on, but I have to say most of what's reported on Walpurgis Night is got to be a mix of tradition, dash of mass hysteria, and a healthy serving of imagination. The Brocken spectre, probably an optical illusion. I mean, well, that's standing with the mist and halos and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Witches' sabbaths, more likely a few locals having a sneaky drink in the woods or riding around on their ergot-smeared broomsticks. But the beauty of it, that's the beauty of it. The stories connect us to our past. They give us a reason to gather. And also, it's fun to do a podcast about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Nectarita says there were lots of pregnancies after May Eve. Well, yeah, I can imagine, because let's face it, I'm pretty sure this was a massive festival across most of Europe. I mean, the oncoming of summer is something to be celebrated, especially if you've made it through the winter.
Well, I think I think, to be honest, it's actually more a celebration of the end of winter rather than, I mean, yes, the weather is warming up, but particularly in places like Sweden and northern Germany and Finland, where winter is much more brutal than it is in the UK. Probably, I mean, Scotland gets worse winters than we do down here, but even that is sort of pales into insignificance when you compare it to a Scandinavian or a Russian or sort of Northern European winter.
Yeah, I think so. What was I going to say? So, who said? Beats and Tate says he knows a lot of witches. To be fair, go on then. Dish the dirt. Real witches are just witches. You know, did you spell witches wrong? You know?
Well, no, there's Wicca, which is
I'm asking Beats and Tapes if he says he knows a lot of witches. So I'm asking if he actually does know witches, or did he spell witch wrong? You know what I mean? Our winters are damp and windy. Well, sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. It depends. This winter wasn't that bad. Well, it was. Yeah, it was. It rained for about 6 weeks, actually. I'm sugarcoating it because it's been dry pretty much this year, which is unusual because January, February, March are usually pretty dire, but they've been fairly dry. So, but before that, it did rain for about 6 weeks without a break.
Well, it felt like it rained for most of 2024, frankly.
Yeah, it was pretty wet.
I mean, we didn't, and 2024, 2023, we didn't really have great summers either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's nice to get a bit of nice warm weather, and let's hope it holds, but now I've said that, it probably won't.
So,
oh, dear.
Yeah. So what else have we got about? Let me see what else I've got about Walpurgis Night, because there was quite a lot of research on it.
I mean, I find the traditions fascinating because they seem to have a common theme, and it's fascinating how these things spread. That you originally have a pagan festival, and then the church comes along and kind of co-opts it and changes it around a little bit and things like that. But it's the same as with Easter, because Easter eggs and Easter bunnies are the original pagan symbols of fertility. Got nothing to do with the birth and the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And the same with Christmas trees. The pagans used to hang lights and stuff on trees to keep the evil spirits away in the dead of winter. And that whole period around between Christmas and New Year is also, just before Christmas, you've got the solstice as well. And it's really interesting how the church comes in and co-opts it, and people just seem to go along with it. And they kind of integrate the existing traditions like the decorating of trees with this notion of Jesus being born, even though he probably wasn't born on 25th of December.
Oh, it certainly wasn't. But I mean, the whole thing about the church is, as we said earlier, it's pretty smart. You know, co-ops local practices to get the people on board, and then people just go along with it. But I think it was maybe Shalini asked what Walpurgis miracle was, because I think you're supposed to have completed a miracle or something before you become a saint. So I remain.
I can find out quickly.
Well, I'm
Have you
looking.
got it,
I've
you got it ready?
After her death, Walpurgis' remains were transferred to Eichstätt, Bavaria, on May the 1st, 870, which coincided with her canonization. So that's when she became a saint. Her tomb became known for mysteriously exuding a therapeutic oil, which pilgrims collected and used for healing purposes. This Walpurgis oil was believed to be highly effective against various diseases, contributing to her veneration as a powerful saint. So Christians celebrated Saint Walpurgis specifically for her powers in battling pest, rabies, and whooping cough, as well as against witchcraft. As a cult,
was she made a saint before or after this
after her
magical
death,
oil?
After her, well, I'm not quite sure. But probably I think the oil sealed the deal. As the cult spread, May the 1st became her feast day, and the evening before, April the 30th, became known as Walpurgis Night, or Saint Walpurgis Eve. Despite its Christian name, Walpurgis Night's traditions and timing strongly suggest pre-Christian origins that the church later assimilated. The church are effectively the Borg, aren't they?
Yeah, resistance is futile.
Yeah, it is. As one source explained, it's pretty much the same as with other saints. Her day was set on a previously pagan celebration, and her duties merged with those of pagan deities and traditions. There was even a political dimension to this choice, as Walpurga was favoured by the church over other saints that were popular at the time because she came from a noble family and the other saints did not. See? Even then, it was who you knew and not what you knew. There you go.
Well, surely that's kind of a story of human development, because there are people that know a lot of things, and if they're not supported by, so if you look back at the Middle Ages and people like Da Vinci and Michelangelo, not Middle Ages, but the point is that they all had patrons. They had some rich person who would pay them to make their art.
Oh.
And there's probably equally talented people that just never had a patron.
Yeah, probably. What else are we going to cover? The concept of the witch's Sabbath itself is a colourful element in European witch lore, first appearing in Inquisition records around the mid-14th century. We never expected the Spanish Inquisition. You never expect the Spanish Inquisition. Our two chief weapons are fear, surprise, and an almost fanatic. Our three chief weapons are fear, surprise, and almost fanatical devotion to the Pope, and so on. I do like a bit of Monty. The concept of the witch's Sabbath, yeah. The Brocken became the quintessential location for such meetings, as recovered in Germanic tradition, although similar locations were identified across Europe, including the Bald Mountain near Kiev.
Did you say bald mountain, as in
bald?
No hair.
Bald as in lacking of hair. Right, the Bald Mountain near Kiev, and it actually says here near Kiev, Russia. Because it would have been Russia then, because Ukraine didn't exist.
Yeah, don't
didn't
say
exist.
that too loudly.
Oh yeah, okay.
We'll get nailed by YouTube for something or other.
Here's a cool location. The Blockula in Sweden. I don't know where the hell that is. And the Département de Puy-de-Dôme of Auvergne, France. La France. Vive la France. There you go. Oh. The methods by which witches were believed to travel to these gatherings adds another layer to the supernatural lore. According to tradition, they would either smear themselves with special ointment that enabled them to fly through the air, or they rode on a goat, ram, or a dog supplied by the devil. This flying ointment, or, well, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's like flugsalb, was rubbed on broomsticks and pitchforks to enable magical. Yeah, they're high as kites on ergot. That's what they were.
Exactly. Point proven.
Exactly.
I've just realised I've actually got something in common with Saint Walpurgis. Both born
You
in
like
Devon.
to get high? Oh, sorry.
No, well,
sorry,
maybe.
I didn't mean that.
No, we're both born in Devon. Although there's about 1,300 years difference, but didn't realise she was actually born in England.
Yeah, no, did I? As you said, I didn't even know she was I didn't know she was a woman until I started looking into it.
Well, she was the daughter of Saint Richard the Pilgrim and sister to Saints Willibald and Wunibald, a family deeply rooted in early Christian missionary work. Educated at the monastery of Wimborne, she developed a strong foundation in scripture and theology. Around 748, at the request of her uncle, Saint Boniface, it's literally the whole family was saints. She joined her brothers in missionary efforts in what is now Germany. She traveled to the Frankish kingdom, where she worked to spread Christianity among pagan communities. She became the abbess, so the leader of an abbey, or of the double monastery of Heidenheim, founded by her brother Runibald. After his death, she took on leadership of both the male and female religious communities, which was a rare role for a woman at the time, and that has to be said. Her work included teaching, healing, and organizing Christian communities, and her reputation for piety and wisdom. She died on February 25th, 1779, or possibly 1777, at Heidenheim. She was canonized on May the 1st, 1870 by Pope Adrian II, shortly after her relics were transferred to Eichstätt. This date, May the 1st, became her feast day, aligning with pre-Christian spring festivals, which likely contributed to the blending of her veneration with pagan rites like Walpurgis Night. Her relics, especially at Eichstätt, were believed to produce the miraculous oil that you talked about. And her feast is celebrated in various regions. She's a patron saint of Eichstätt, Antwerp, and against storms, rabies, and witchcraft. Mm-hmm. So that's
because
interesting. How did the whole family get? I mean, if you come from a family of saints, did she get canonized just because they did the rest of the family and didn't want to leave her out, or how does the whole family of people get canonized?
I have no idea. So Walpurgis Night traditions vary across Northern and Central Europe. The celebration is observed in the Netherlands, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, Sweden, Lithuania, Latvia, Finland, and Estonia. Each region has developed its own customs and folklore around the night.
Well, here's a possibly screamingly obvious question.
Go on.
So Saint Walpurgis was English and born in England.
Yeah. But
we don't have a Walpurgis Night. So the country where she was born doesn't celebrate her life, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, well, St. George wasn't English, was he?
Yeah, but we'd have St. George's Day. So why don't
exactly.
we have Walpurgis Day?
No, that's what I mean. St. George wasn't English.
So,
but you have him as your saint. Well, St. Patrick wasn't Irish, was he?
No. But there must be saints that come from the country that they did their good works in.
I've forgotten.
St. Andrew.
St. Andrew. I don't know where he comes from. St. George was the patron saint of Portugal as well.
Well, that's St. George. He did get around a bit. But it's probably more. It's it's probably more connected to the fact that these Eastern and Northern European countries actually celebrated this pagan Walpurgis festival.
They probably had
And-
a bigger spring festival as a pagan thing than we would have. And that's why the churches picked her and made her a saint there, because they wanted to co-opt that festival, because we don't really do, we do Easter. But we don't really do, you know, May Day. Yeah, if you're in
don't
France.
Really do Saints' Days either.
Yeah. If you're in France, 1st of May, like today, everything shuts.
Pretty much everywhere.
You know,
But
when
then
I say everything shuts, I couldn't believe it. Nothing was open. We're like, what the freak? They take it very seriously. May Day. Nothing's open.
Well, there's lots of, I mean, living here, we wouldn't notice it, but the Five Eyes countries and places like Switzerland don't have 1st of May off, but it's essentially the workers' holiday. So I think the 1st of May is like I think there's connections to communism and stuff. Let me just check.
Okay, I don't know. So anyway, Walpurgis Night stands as a remarkable example of how ancient beliefs, Christian traditions, and natural phenomena can intertwine to create an enduring cultural celebration. From its origins as both a saint's feast day and a pagan spring festival, to its associations with witchcraft and supernatural gatherings, the night encapsulates centuries of European religious and folkloric development. Today's celebration, while less focused on supernatural feels, maintains connections to those historical roots through bonfires, costumes, and mountain gatherings. The modern reveller dancing around a Walpurgis fire participates in a tradition that spans more than a millennium, connecting contemporary observers to generations who similarly marked the turning of winter to spring. You can't beat a good fire, though. You really can't.
No, you can't.
I think it's a man thing, though, you know.
No, I know plenty of women that like fires as well.
Fire.
So the May 1st holiday, often called May Day or International Workers' Day, has strong historical ties to communism and socialist movements. It originated in the late 19th century from the labor movement in the United States, specifically the 1886 Haymarket Fair in Chicago, where workers demanded an 8-hour workday. The Second International, a socialist and communist organization, later adopted May the 1st in 1889 to commemorate the event and promote workers' rights globally, which explains why Britain don't get the 1st of May off, because we're the peasant class.
Dave Barnes says he used to do May Day at school when he was a nipper, prancing around the maypole. Did you guys do that? No, we never.
No, I've never done any maypole dancing.
No,
but that is a tradition certainly in Wales and Scotland, in England and Wales, I think.
I don't know. Robin just comes up with the weirdest things. He really does.
Village where an effigy of Margaret Thatcher was burned as Goldthorpe, South Yorkshire. Right.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but that's like the Lewis bonfire that we have down here on the south coast. Well, it's not quite the coast, but Lewis is, it's probably about...
Dave's obviously quite worried in case we think he's a bit... because he said he didn't personally partake.
Don't worry.
But
Lewis does that. We have. Lewis has
it.
the bonfire night where every single year they have crazy people burning barrels through the streets and big bonfires and fireworks displays, and they always have multiple different effigies that they burn. It's almost always world leaders and people like that.
All right. And then, what's it? Shetland does that up Hellier thing. That's kind of Vikingish, though. You know, when they...
I've never even heard of that one.
Up Hellier. Oh, yeah, when they walk through the streets with swinging balls of lighted coals. Yeah, it can get quite wild.
Yeah, well, that sounds a bit like Lewis.
Maybe it was Lewis, I don't know.
It's not my thing at all, but Lewis has these... it's a very old town, and they have these kind of winding little narrow streets,
Mhm.
and the whole town turns out, and they have these bonfire. I mean, it's all very well organized, but yeah, you have these crazy people rolling these burning barrels of pitch down the bloody road. It's just crazy.
It takes place in Lerwick, Shetland, up Hillier. They usually end up burning a Viking longboat at the end of it. Some kind of death of winter or something. When is it? It's in March. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of their torchlight procession. Burning of a replica Viking galley. What else to do? Gulsing, whatever that means. Parties, charades, and ceilidhs. Charades! I can't imagine the Vikings being a big charades guys, but hey, I might well be wrong. Maybe they are.
Well, I mean, I guess they had to do they had to do other things for entertainment other than going to war.
After a hard day's berserking, I don't like a game of charades.
Somehow that seems a little bit unlikely.
I haven't been, Fluffy. Shetland's might as well be in Iceland. It's miles away. It's quite far.
It just doesn't look like it on a map.
It doesn't look like it on a map, but it is a fair hike. You need a plane. It takes a couple of hours. Which doesn't sound a lot, but only takes an hour to get to London on a plane. So it's twice as far away as that.
Yeah, but isn't that because the plane is much smaller?
It's part of it. Okay. The airport's a beach. Yeah, but we're not splitting hairs here. I flew to Kirkwall. That's not much bigger. The airport's like a go-kart strip.
Well, that reminds me of an airport we landed in. They've probably done it up now, but in the north of Zambia, there's a place on Lake Tanganyika called Kasaba Bay, and they had a dirt strip and a mud hut, which is the terminal building. Well, not even mud. I think it was grass and stuff.
Where are you from, Fluffy? Shetland's had a quite unfortunate history. And do you remember the unfortunate history of Shetland? When
I don't know very much about the history of Shetland, full stop.
Yeah, there was people got wrongly accused of the whole thing. Was like some kind of mad. It came out and it was like everybody on the island was satanically abusing, little people. But it was just like mental, and it all turned out to be a load of nonsense. Hold on a second. Is there a funny noise at your end?
No. What sort of noise?
Like a ringing, like some kind of bell thing, no?
Beyond the normal tinnitus, no.
Have you got tinnitus as well? So do I.
Mm.
You guys hear anything on the stream?
I mean, I've certainly got nothing coming through my headphones. So, is there something you hear in the background?
Yeah, Dave says he can hear it. I don't know what the hell it is. It's a weird noise.
No idea. I mean, let me mute myself. We can work out whether it's me or not.
You mute yourself. Oh, it's Ed. Gone. Yeah, it's you.
So what's the noise then?
How would you describe it, people? It's like someone doing that with one of those bowls, it's in the background, but it's constant. It's weird.
It might be. It might be my air filter. I have it on low, but it's not completely inaudible. But to turn it off, I have to stand up. So,
Fluffy's in Bosnia. Good grief, that's interesting.
But then I also have. My media server isn't spun up at the moment, so it can't be that. If anything, it's going to be the air filter.
It's weird because it's only kind of started in the last couple of minutes. Well, 5 minutes or so, I think.
Well, that doesn't make any sense then,
It
because
doesn't make sense.
the purifier's been running for the entire duration of the show. Let me just check. Let me just see if there's some background noise I'm not picking up. No, I mean, I've got a window open, but
Yeah.
the square is quiet this evening, so.
Gone?
Yeah.
It's gone?
I don't know. Feedback
That was
from the
weird. Maybe
various-
see when you touched your headphone, it stopped.
Maybe there's some feedback from the headphone or something. I mean, we don't normally get a problem with that. With the same headphones and mic I normally use.
Yeah, no, I know. No, that's cool. That's cool. Right, okay. So I think we've pretty much covered the what do you call it?
Walpurgis Night.
Walpurgis Night and Saint Walpurga.
Learn about a new saint.
Yeah, we did. So what I tell you what we're going to do, people. I've been reviewing the channel, and we're trying to get it so as we can deliver the best possible experience for you at the least possible grief for me. Because making these things isn't easy. I know I make it look easy, but it can get quite stressful, especially when you're trying to churn out a video every day. So I think what I did was I tasked AI to review my channel, and it was quite good because I used Perplexity, and it's got a deep research thing, and it was pretty good because it was writing Python script and pulling out stats. It took about it really literally, because it told you what it was doing, and it literally took about 30 minutes to go through it, and it produced a report that said what was working and what wasn't working. And I'd obviously been looking at the channel as well, and rabbit holes aren't working now for some reason. And I know you guys like them, but the problem is not everybody does. But people seem to be loving the true crime aspect of the rabbit holes, so I think we might do more of them. They also loved the Secret Service ones, MI6 and all that. They get great reviews compared to, great views compared to the rest of the stuff. So I think we're going to step away from the more cryptid type stuff and go more towards true crime, because we used to do that quite a lot. Remember, we used to do the Rippers, both Jack and the other one, the Copycat and Hammersmith.
Well, we've still got plenty of intelligence services we could cover.
Yeah, we
got
do.
The Stasi and the Checker. Well, no, we've done the KGB.
Oh, don't worry, Beats. Don't worry. We'll still be doing stories.
I think the stories work. We need to try and combine the two formats and do a.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's possible to write a little story about intelligence agencies or whatever.
New donation from Nick Taradis.
Thank you, Nick Taradis. He's given us a donation. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it as always. I tell you what, we might go back to doing, which we are freaking hilarious, right? Well, the poorly acted recreations of some of the true crime stuff. Because some of them were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because we even had Cellini and Vaughan and people like that involved in them. But they were really bad, but they were funny. Well,
I'm not for anything.
So Fluffy's saying, so what do people like? No, it doesn't seem to. Well, people love All In, right? All In's not moving, right? It's staying, and we need all. I mean, I need All In, and I think Ed needs All In as a release mechanism.
It's becoming just as important as my kung fu class in terms of dealing with just the world.
Yeah. So we're All In staying. I think what the rabbit hole is going to do is going to turn more into true crime and a more produced video, I think. So it might not come out every week, but if stuff comes up, there's nothing to stop us jumping on and talking about it. But yeah, that's what people kind of like. They don't like the Crypto Zoo stuff. I know you do, Beats and Tapes, but unfortunately, mate, you don't even donate. So, you know, you're getting all this content free. I'm crying now. He's made me cry. Look at that. I'm crying. I'm working for nothing. But yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, doing 2 shows Thursday, Friday every week does get a bit much as well. So even if we're doing 2 a month or something, that
and remember, I do one on Tuesday as well. I do the movie review show on Tuesday, and I must admit, I'm quite enjoying that. It's a bit different. I do like, and I like doing the movie reviews. If you haven't seen the movie reviews, I'm moving them all over to Snarky Cinema because they're going to come off the channel, because that's the other thing. They don't blend with the kind of stuff that we do on this channel. So it's not good to have too many disparate items on your channel. So we're going to try and concentrate basically on true crime and all in, because the other kind of things that if I'm going to do a video on something, then I can apply my past, expertise on it and do deep dives and things. So I can do that. But yeah, Tuesday is getting good, Beats and Tapes. I really like it. So I think what we'll do, we'll move all that to Snacky Cinema. But what I'll do is, if you go to the community tab on YouTube, I'll put a link to the playlist if you want to watch any of the movie reviews. If you like people, or if you like a Scottish guy tearing movies apart, then I would strongly recommend you watch Damaged and also Alien Romulus, as well as obviously Jack Black's Minecraft and Snow White. But these, and then there's another one, I don't know if The Looking is on there from June. If you want to hear a movie I loved, I really loved Godzilla -1. But yeah. So I would strongly recommend you watch Damaged and Alien Romulus, the review, because I was listening to that the other day and laughing at myself, which is quite sad. Oh, and then there's Borderlands if you don't like Jack Black. Because I hate Jack Black. And let me be clear, I detest the man.
I enjoyed Alien Romulus, though.
Did you?
Yeah, well, it's not.
How?
The thing is that it's obviously not the original, but
it's not.
It's I don't know. I quite like the vibe. It sucked me in. Put it that way.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't get past the very, very obvious plot holes. They're on a mining planet or whatever, trying to work their way off it, but they have a spaceship already. They just don't have enough money to put themselves to sleep for 9 years. I just, and then they go to this abandoned space station that's owned by the biggest. This is like going to SpaceX's abandoned factory, right? Where SpaceX has left a xenomorph in it, right? That they can use as a killing machine. And they want a xenomorph, but they can't be bothered going to their abandoned factory and picking it up. I mean, that's just, it doesn't make fucking sense, mate, does it? Really? If you think about it, it just doesn't make sense.
But the Alien movies are not. I don't know. Maybe it's after so many Alien movies, I just stopped paying too much attention to the plot.
Wait. There's only 2 Alien movies.
Well,
there's Alien and there's Aliens, and that's it. It finishes there. There's no point in watching anymore. Honestly, people, don't watch anymore. It's not worth it. You'll just disappoint yourself. Like going to bed with that fat bird. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to go, I'm disappointed in myself.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, that's where we are. Oh, you liked them all, said Ray. Oh, my God. I don't understand you people sometimes.
Well, sometimes you don't have to. Don't need to think too much about a film. You don't need to analyze every single plot point
No, you
or
don't. You're right.
inconsistency or whatever.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Ed. But the problem is, you've got, if you've started the series, right, you've got to make it consistent. And then
Yeah,
you
but
can't start going and changing the laws of physics.
But they'd already done that. Like you said, the first two made sense, and from three onwards, they just got progressively more nuts.
That's why I said don't watch them. Just don't watch them. They're rubbish. I mean, it's like Star Wars. You know, does anyone still watch Star Wars? You know, after the first three, well, what would be the last, not the last three movies, but the fucking
episodes
hell.
1, 2, and 3,
no,
as opposed to
it should be 4, 5, and 6.
I mean, I still go back and watch 4, 5, and 6 today. That's
what I mean. 4, 5, and 6 are Star Wars, as far as I'm concerned, right? Everything else is just fluff. It's just, and it doesn't work. But do you think it works?
Well, not all the time, but at the same time, particularly the George Lucas ones, you don't go into one of those George Lucas Star Wars movies expecting amazing scripts and wonderful dialogue and everything else. And I mean, The Phantom Menace, I thought I didn't enjoy it when I first watched it, but then I was after a club night off my tits here one night, and I watched it sitting very close to the TV, tripping my tits off, and it was bloody amazing.
Okay. That's
the pod racing and stuff, but that's an altered state.
Yeah,
that's not saying anything about the movie.
That's not fair, right? I tell you what. I tell you what's really honed my sensibilities about movies, and this might sound a bit up myself, but I'm not trying to be. But we started this kind of movie club thing, and I did extend an invitation to a lot of people, including some of the people in the chat, and they've never taken me up on it, you know. But the offer's still there. If you want to be part of the movie club, you can come on and you can watch movies and discuss them, and you will get a fair hearing, right? But you don't get to pick a movie until you've watched at least two of other people's. But so we started watching the movies, and I picked. I can't remember what I picked to start with, but what's his name? David Nolan picked The Deer Hunter for the second one, and I hadn't seen The Deer Hunter for ages. And I thought, it was The Last Picture Show was mine, and then we watched The Deer Hunter, and holy shit, I've forgotten how good movies could be. Now, The Deer Hunter's 3 hours long, right? If you're a millennial, it'll drive you up the wall because nothing happens for the first hour, and then suddenly, bang, you're in Vietnam. But that first hour is critical to getting to understand the people and the characters in the movie. And when you actually sit and watch a movie like that, you then realise the kind of drivel that is being portrayed as entertainment these days. It's quite sad, you know?
Well, even supposed highbrow films now don't have any kind of, I mean, it's very rare that you'll get something that has the depth of a movie like The Deer Hunter. But a lot of the time these days, a lot of it is rehashed. There seem to be so many films that are either sequels or remakes or reimaginings or whatever, that they're just, I don't know, it's either the studios are too risk averse or they're just really boring.
I think they've got themselves into this position where they've been churning out stuff that's designed to placate people, I think. And placating people doesn't work because movies have always been there to challenge your thinking, in my view, right? I mean, yeah, they've been entertainment, but they're still there to challenge your thinking. And even
these days they do less challenging of thinking and much more rehashing narratives.
Yeah,
and everything has to be reinforcing the current social zeitgeist.
Yeah.
whether that's the whole trans thing or it's the whole all of it, and you suddenly have like non-binary characters in Star Wars and old Star Trek, all this kind of thing, and but they make such a big deal out of it. If you look back at the original Star Trek series, that was responsible for the first interracial kiss on American television.
It was, yeah.
But it was done completely nonchalantly. It was only made a big deal of about afterwards. And they were challenging social norms and stuff like that, and doing it in a very, but doing it in a way that wasn't preachy. Yeah. And these days, you have movies and TV shows that seem to just want to preach to you.
And I mean, look at the bridge on Star Wars, right? Could you get more diverse? You know,
Star Trek, you mean?
Sorry, Star Trek. Could you get more diverse? Really?
No, they even had a Russian.
Exactly. Yeah, they did. And you wouldn't see one of them these days, you know?
Well, that is the thing, is if they remade Star Trek now, they would deliberately exclude the Russian.
I know.
And we're supposed to be more forward-thinking than they were in the 1960s. It's just bonkers. I mean, that is a perfect analogy of the difference between life in the 60s and life now. Is that in the 60s, they had the Cuban Missile Crisis. Russia was an actual enemy. We didn't have the same kind of information. There was a lot more propaganda, and you'd still have a Russian in a sci-fi show. And now you could remake that, and there would be absolute hysterics if you tried to put a Russian in a series now. I mean, a Russian that's not a gangster or a bad guy or some negative character.
They flung the Russian out of Formula One because he was a Russian. I mean, that's just outrageous.
Yeah, it's and that's one of the most outrageous things about this whole Russia conflict, is that we've had wars with plenty of people, but they've never been demonized to the extent that the Russians have been.
Well, I mean, we put Germans and Japanese in concentration camps in the UK.
And that was during a time of war. But I get it's when we were actually at war rather than encouraging this proxy war.
To call a spade, right? We're kind of at war. Effectively, you know? While we might not be I think we are putting boots on the ground, but while we're not overtly putting boots on the ground, we're still pretty much involved in this as a war, aren't we?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I'm not saying that we're not. But it's the level of intolerance in society that I find it's almost like we're more intolerant in 2025 than we were in the 1960s.
Yeah, yeah.
In the 1960s, you still had segregation in the United States.
Well, yeah, we did, yeah. Yeah.
But I think we've done that one.
I think we have. Ray says he didn't spend $1,000 on his sound system to go and spend a fortune at the cinema. You know what? I think what's going on with modern movies, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but why is the diction so hard to understand and so hard to hear? You know, you can't make people out. Either actors are mumbling, or they're not being recorded properly, or they're deliberately obfuscating their words. Because some of the stuff you've got to put subtitles on to understand it. You know, and why is that? Why is that? Is it lazy filmmaking? Or what? You know, I just don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm asking the question, you know. And they make the music booming and the voices low, and they do that. But when you're at the cinema, you should be able to hear it properly, because these movies are designed to be shown in a cinema, and the cinema's audio system should conform to the way that the movie's made. Problem becomes when you watch that movie at home, unless you've got something like a 7.1 system that's set up as THX or whatever, or Dolby, you know, Super, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to replicate that. And that's the problem. That's when the problem becomes really prevalent when you try and watch it at home, because the music is way too loud. And then you can't hear, when you turn it down because the music's fucking knocking the roof off, you can't hear the people speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yet, it's like Hatchie says, you go to a black and white movie and everything's pin sharp. You can hear everything everybody says. Watch
I get that with old films as well. Yeah.
Watch like a Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone. It's fucking brilliant. I love those movies. I love Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. Absolutely brilliant. But everything that is properly and enunciated, you can hear everything properly. Much better than it would be if I was speaking it. You know?
Well, that's received pronunciation.
Well, yeah. Oh, there you go.
I think we're done, aren't we?
I think we are, mate. I think we are. I've had a good night. I've enjoyed that.
That's been fun.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We didn't expect to have
I've
Ed
got
tonight.
a whole bunch of links to send for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I was due to be having dinner with a friend, but that's now happening next week, so I won't be here next Thursday.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens next week. It might not be a rabbit hole. It might be a video. It might be something else. We'll just see how it goes. But we'll definitely be back on Friday, tomorrow, and the week after. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
When's the movie that we're watching for Tuesday night is on Tuesday is the day after my birthday. Just in case you wanted to make a donation. The movie we're watching on Tuesday night is going to be A Dangerous Method, which is a David Cronenberg movie starring Michael Fassbender, Keira Knightley, and Viggo Mortensen as Freud, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and the patient that came between them. So we'll see how that goes.
It's a good film.
I haven't seen it. It's my choice. My choice, but I haven't seen it.
I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, it's the acting is superb.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, well,
I mean, and it's quite. Yeah, no, I think you will enjoy it.
I think Keira Knightley got an award for it.
She's brilliant in it, but they all are.
I always think of her as a poor man's Natalie Portman, but she's not really, is she? She's pretty good in her own right.
Oh, Keira Knightley's acting is a cut above Natalie Portman.
Did you see her in that? Did you see her in that thing where she was the GCHQ?
Official Secrets.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant film. She was so good in that. It was really, and I think casting her as Catherine Gunn did a lot of honor to Catherine Gunn as well.
Yeah,
because what she did was amazingly brave, and for her to then be portrayed so excellently by Keira Knightley, I just think it was a brilliant film. If people haven't seen that, it's well worth watching, especially in light of the state of the government.
Oh yeah. Someone posted a tweet today and it said, "Would you stop kicking the government? They're doing their best. Kick the Tories and reform instead." And I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm like, but the government's kicking us. Do you want us to just lie down to the bully?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, fuck the government. Really?
If people are
fuck the government.
After the number of broken campaign promises and all of the damage that they're doing to the economy and the debt and the wars, and I mean, you have to be a proper little sycophant to still be supporting the Wombats of Westminster.
Actually said Captain Kirk and Spock in bed wouldn't have gone down well. Well, hey, maybe it wouldn't, but what the hell? But yeah, it was a good laugh. It was a good laugh. Right, okay, so we're now verging into all-in territory, so I think it's time to call it a night.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
We'll be back tomorrow.
It has been great. It's been great for me. It's been great for Ed. It's been great for you.